Welcome back, investor. We've got a great episode for you today on something that I know nothing about and I'm kind of a skeptic about. And so I'm going to be asking some of the questions that you probably all have about precious metals, specifically gold and silver trading. We have Abe Day on. I met Abe, I don't know, probably a year ago when we were had a mutual friend here in the Salt Lake Valley area. And because my kids are homeschooled and we're talking about investing, it turns out Abe has an actual mint, like a precious metals mint. And I thought, oh, that would be so much fun to take my kids down to go see this mint. And so we started talking back and forth about this. And our conversations, I realized like I actually know anything about gold or silver. I have been kind of shying away from it for many years for several reasons we're going to get into with Abe. But I'm just going to try to ask all the questions that I have that I imagine most people, when they're considering precious metals investing, probably have. And we're going to try and give a balanced approach so that we can figure out like if this is a good fit to have something like this in our portfolio. And if so, what kinds of questions should we ask? How much should we have versus other types of assets? I'm all about diversification here. And because I don't have any precious metals at all, I feel like this might be something I might want to look into. I just don't know exactly when. So Abe is going to come on and kind of walk us through this whole process. So thank you so much for joining us today, Abe.
You bet. It's great to be with you, Emma.
Yeah. So, with that introduction, give us a little bit about your history, how you came into the gold and silver industry specifically, because I know you're a serial entrepreneur, but also the mint part of it is also pretty unique. And so, just walk us through your personal history into this precious metals world.
Okay, so that's great. So my whole background is entrepreneurship, but I chose to kind of start my career in film, and then I changed my study to art and design,
Hmm.
and ended up learning the 3D, everything 3D, and then I ended up getting a job in the video game industry right out of college. And so I used to make video games. I was a lead artist for Disney character artists. We would, I think, last big AAA title I made was like Toy Story 3.
Oh,
A
wow.
lot of my friends that are still in the industry are working on the Harry Potter game that everybody's the Hogwarts Legacy.
Yeah. My
Uh,
kids.
so, but my heart was towards entrepreneurship and financial awareness. I used to study and teach Dave Ramsey's whole plan. Every time I would learn something new, it was really exciting. But then I saw something really interesting in the economy back in 2006, 2007. Things are about to take a big hit, and I'm just looking around. I'm like, well, is nobody is noticing that there's going to be a collapse in the housing market, and all the politicians were saying the opposite of what was happening. And I'd have aunts and relatives come over to me and recommend, "Hey, I've got an opportunity." And she works for the government. She's like, to buy a house for, at the time it was a lot of money, $600,000. It doesn't sound a lot now, but it was a
Yeah.
good amount.
It's a shack. But
And she says, "And one of this is a good time to do it." And I was like, one of the only ones that says, "No, this is going to be a bloodbath coming." And like, "Who are you? You work for Disney? What do you know about this?" I'm like, "Dude." And then she ended up like with like the developer offloaded like 6 houses to her because they were using that, stated credit, and she just lost her entire life savings, within 6 months. And so because of that, I was like, "I'm gonna do something with my talent set to actually maybe figure this out." So I started working with my software developer friends to try and figure out how to do some financial software that, does a zero balance budget like Dave Ramsey, and
Okay.
that has all these goals. And it was just, we started a little bit too early. It was right before the iOS for Apple and iPhones came out, which was unfortunate because I think I missed a little bit of opportunity there. But we started designing financial software to help people get out of debt, to leverage their HELOCs, but not charge. Some people were charging like thousands of dollars for these spreadsheet software programs, and I was going to say, no, let's do it awesome. And so we worked about 2 years on that software right as the crash hit, and then I exited Disney to try and promote that and get that out. And I'm not the best marketing person. I'm a product developing guy, and we're
Mhm.
doing our best, but that was moderate success. But it really I woke myself up to kind of how the whole system works, and how different things work together. And I came across gold and silver as one of these key things that I didn't really know how it worked, but I had a goal to go after anything that was related to that. So that led me to, and the reason why is because the biggest thing that had been happening and is still happening is inflation. And why inflation works. And most people think inflation is because people just charge more prices. But the reality is, the real reason why prices get more expensive is because there's more money that is printed, that or more debt created, that creates more dollars, so that there's a flood of dollars into a system. So this is no different than if you had a bunch of kids, at homeschool, and say, okay, we're gonna talk about inflation. Here's what I want you to do: get all your favorite things, let's put them in the middle. Here's a candy bar, here's a toy, and I'm gonna give you some monopoly money, and I want everybody to have $10. Okay, now everybody bid on those same goods and services. They're limited, so this is all you can get. And so the money that they have to work with is what they got. And that's like our economy and the money they have to work with. And the goods and services are what they have. And so you can say, well, how much are these things going to cost? Well, they're going to cost up to $10 per person, and that is it. And then maybe some of them get creative and trade, and they go into a bigger item and say, I want, I'm bidding $30 for that candy bar because I can break it up and mix it. They can get creative, right?
Yeah.
But in the end, there's no more money than what is available.
Yeah.
Now, same scenario, give them all $1 million and then have them bid on the same items and see how the prices rise. And that is exactly how inflation works. But in our system, it's when the government borrows money that they don't have in the treasury. And so they'll just say, oh, we got this crisis, let's raise some money. So they go over to the Federal Reserve and say, hey, we need to borrow some money. They charge 6%, but they also print the dollars. They also actually print them. And so the only way to actually, so the money is created and then it's borrowed into existence. It floats through the economy. They get the value of it when it's still, in this analogy, they get the $10 items at the new money. But when the money gets spent in there, and a lot of it gets spent up, by the time we get it, it's $100.
Mhm.
And so, or $1 million, right? So that's our economy. And then there's no extra money to pay back the original debt. So the only way to pay back the debt is to actually borrow more. And so it's an unsolvable problem. The founders of our country figured this out right in the beginning when they had run their economy, and even the Revolutionary War on was called colonial script. It was a paper money, and they learned that, well, even when they wanted to pay for stuff that they couldn't afford, they would just print more. But then people found out that it wasn't worth as much, and so it just became this problem, and they just inflated away. And so when they established our Constitution, they said that states shall accept nothing but gold and silver as a payment of debt. And that is still part of our Constitution. It's Article 1, Section 10. It's just, or Section 8, Section 10. And so that was the basis of money in our economy to prevent that from happening. But throughout our history, they've not stayed to that principle for a couple reasons, but it's in their fabric. And when we were on a gold and silver standard, we actually were a silver standard to begin with. Inflation just really didn't happen that much, and it wasn't really a thing. And it was a constant like price up to the times when we went off those standards. As soon as we went off those standards, then inflation happened. So the last time we were tied to gold and silver was in the 70s, 1971. After that, you can watch how prices and things were stable. And as soon as we were off that gold standard, they went up like that, because now they had the unfettered ability to just print money whenever they wanted it or needed it. So knowing this information, I'm like, I gotta learn all about this. And so I co-founded something called United Precious Metal Association up in Alpine, Utah. Uh, the that was the nonprofit side. The for-profit side was Alpine Gold, which came out of that. So I've been the chairman of the board for the last 11 years on that. It's just a volunteer. I don't make money doing that. That's just a voluntary thing. Now I'm the vice president there. And then from that opportunity, somebody had a minting equipment that they had sold years ago. And, because I had this commitment to do all things gold and silver, I eventually was kind of forced to ask him, like, well, would you sell that equipment to me? I don't know anything about how to do this. And ultimately he said yes, and then I had to figure it out. So in 2000, I acquired the minting equipment and then had to figure it out. And it was right as COVID happened. And so while everybody else was at home, I was setting up this business to figure out manufacturing. And I thought it would be wise just to also know manufacturing and machining and all the things that you need to, because of the way the world seemed to be shifting,
Mhm.
where this knowledge was kind of a lost art. And I was correct in that. Like, this is like hardly any, nobody knows what I know now. And in the last couple of years, a lot of private mints have also been squeezed out of the marketplace because of the precious metals market right now. So I'm probably one of about 5 to 10 private mints in the United States right now. So
Yeah,
that's kind of my background.
it's kind of incredible because let's go back to Dave Ramsey days. It's like Dave Ramsey was one of the main reasons that I was really never really into gold. But one of our friends who we actually ran into at a Dave Ramsey event asked me one time, he said, "Are you buying gold?" And I said, "No, I'm not buying any gold because if we go back to a barter system, Mad Max world, we are going to have things like shotguns and food that we're going to be bartering for gasoline. Like gold is really you can't eat gold. It's not really that useful in this apocalyptic scenario because that's what he was looking for. It's like if the United States system breaks down and we suddenly are, we've all read the books, right? And I don't think I really appreciated from that standpoint that gold has a utility in the economy, even when the economy is healthy. And I guess I just still don't really even understand what that role is. And also because gold does not cash flow, I have stayed away from it because we have been in a building phase while my husband was working. And then when he quit working, now cash flow is king because we gotta pay our bills, right? And so I'm not holding any or hardly any assets right now that don't provide some sort of monthly or quarterly throw off. And so gold, again, I pushed it to the back burner again and again and again because of this. So educate me on why gold is still important, the why silver specifically is still important, why we're not talking about platinum, all of that. Give me a gold and silver crash course.
Sure, sure. So gold and silver are several things. The first thing that they are is that they are money, and they have always been money for thousands of years. They've been traded. Now, what money means is that you can trade gold and silver the same day in any amount anywhere in the world. Actually, it's taken more places in the world, and so it is the most quickly traded item. It is a cash equivalent, and it has always been that. So if you have gold and you need money that same day, you will have a check before a bank can clear a wire, and that's the truth. Most people don't know that because there's a history on that, and I can explain that history a little bit later. Silver is the same way, and so when our dollar was defined in our Constitution setup, again, it's part of our fabric of the United States. This is not something that's been separate. It's part of our core. It's in our it's codified in our law. And so when they defined the US dollar, like what should we call a dollar? It wasn't a piece of paper. It was a volume of silver. It was about 0.77 troy-ounces. And it was because of all the forms of money that they tried to use when they set up our countries. That silver coin from Mexico that would be created, it was called the real. It was a coin about this size, and they would trade it, and everybody loved it because it kept its value. And so they defined a U.S. dollar as point, say 39, say 391.75 grains of silver. And then to get changed, what they would do is they would divide it into pieces of eight pieces.
Yeah.
And then if you ever heard the thing like dot 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 dot, that's shave and a haircut, 2 bits. Those 2 bits were a quarter or two of those pieces of silver, and that you'd pay the the barber for your shave and a haircut. And so those two same little slivers of silver are gonna buy you close to a shave and a haircut to this day. So it just stabilized everybody's mind because you can't make silver out of thin air, but you can take the bits of that silver and then collect them and weigh them and then get Congress to coin them again, which was part of their duties. And so that lasted all the way up to the Civil War. And in the Civil War, they started to Lincoln with his U.S. Treasurer Salmon Chase decided that the only way to make the war work, because it was a depression up at the North when that happened, is to come up with a new system that they would require by executive order for people to take. And that is when the green dollar was made. Salmon Chase, who was the Secretary of the Treasury of Abraham Lincoln, created that dollar. It was called the greenback, Lincoln's greenback. And it was so successful because you didn't have to have any commodities. You could just print it and command people to take it. That's called a fiat currency that it worked throughout the Civil War and afterwards. And then after the Civil War, they made silver illegal as money. In 1873, it was called the Crime of 73. And then after that, they tried to do a gold standard. And then there's a fun story I'll have to tell you about the Wizard of Oz. The real way you should read that book, the original one is the Wizard of Ounces. OZ is the symbol for ounces.
Oh.
Believe it or not, it's a gold and silver story.
Hmm.
And so it's the most popular, and it's still popular in our culture. There's a reason why, because it is our story. It's America's story. So gold. So we talked about gold being money. So it's money and silver, instantly tradable. Since 2012, it is a tier 1 asset. That means it's as good as real estate. In fact, gold and silver is real estate. It's literally a piece of ground that comes from the earth, and everybody wants it. But the great thing about gold and silver, there's no bad gold and silver. Like, you say location, 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 right? Well, the location of gold and silver is always a good location. And so it's also an investment because it's a hedge against inflation. So if you have inflation happening, it's because they're printing a bunch of dollars or borrowing them into existence on a computer. And as that circulates to the economy, just like your house goes up in value when there's more money to borrow, well, gold and silver do the same thing. And so it becomes a hedge against inflation. And you'll see, again, when you're looking at the price of gold from 1900 to about 1971, it was as stable as you could get. And there was 8% year over year growth when we were on that system. As soon
Mhm.
as we decoupled from that, we instantly had mass inflation. And you can just see these things spike because there was nothing to hold them back from printing as much as they needed to print. Sorry. And so from 1971, gold was about $35 an ounce to 2025. It is $4,300 an ounce. And so if you do the math on that, it's a huge return. I think it outpaces the S&P 500 or anything else. Silver is now doing the same thing. And so the scary part where people, so people can save their money in gold and silver, like my friend did. My friend, he's out in the boondocks and he gets paid really well, like cutting trees for the state. And
Mhm.
he's out where places you would never go. And this is an example of how you can cash flow silver. So he came to me 4 years ago. I said, okay, I just want to put everything in silver because it's getting out, getting out of control out there. And so he did that. And then he saved it. And the cool thing about gold and silver is the value is not in a piece of paper or it's not somewhere else. The value is in the land itself, the piece itself. And so when he wanted to buy some property recently, he came over to me and says, Abe, I need to sell some silver back to you. I'm like, okay, how much do you want to sell? This much. Done. He took it and he had tripled his money.
Yeah.
And he was able to, so it became the store of value
Mhm.
that allowed him to capture the inflation. Now, if you put that in cash in a bank account, or earning a negative interest rate, if you count for inflation, then he wouldn't have had as much to work with. So
Mhm.
it's just a really safe place where you're under control of this asset that is the value is in of itself. And so that's kind of gold and silver in a nutshell. Um, but uh, but it goes a lot deeper. But that's basically the basics.
Yeah, well, I mean, in a 30, 45-minute podcast, we gotta stick to the basics, especially when I'm the one asking
Yeah.
the questions because I do not know what I'm talking about. But you said a couple of things that I have some questions about.
Yes.
I think that I could talk to you about this for all day, weeks and weeks. This would be like
Yes.
a PhD if I really wanted to dive into it that far. But you said something about the S&P 500 outpacing, like traditionally, The S&P has slightly edged out gold, but in 2025, gold has just exploded. And talking about cash flowing it, the example that I'm thinking is that new trend where people are going to Costco to buy the gold coins and then they're selling them to gold traders at more money than they bought it for if they can find the right trader, right? Um, and so if you can get it undervalued and they're just flipping gold, and I'm thinking, okay, well, that's a way to cash flow that I never really thought of before. But is there something about 2025 why gold has just taken off the way that it has? Why is it going crazy right now? And it is I never invest in anything that I am going to need in the next 5-ish years.
Mhm.
That's my stock market philosophy because of the volatility. I want to make sure that I'm in it for a good number of years. Is gold one of those things where you're looking at it with a 5-year time horizon? Is flipping it a real thing? Like what's going on right now with gold that it's going crazy?
Yeah, there's all kinds of ways to utilize it. It's so amazing. I mean, just the properties of gold and silver have utility. So
Mhm.
gold does not oxidize. You can take gold and put it in a vat of acid in the bottom of the sea for 200 years. It doesn't do anything. If you wanted to, and so gold is huge in industries because any electronics you don't want to oxidize. The most important, if you opened up your cell phone and dug into your cell phone, you would find the most key components over are plated with gold because it doesn't decay and you need it to work. Silver is the most electrically conductive material there is, and the most reflective and the most thermally conductive material there is. There's nothing better than gold and silver. So, in all of the industries, especially silver is way more important to industry than gold right now.
Mhm.
So, for batteries, they're talking about Elon Musk is looking at the price of silver right now going up because he needs it for every single one of his cars and robots.
Yep.
And so if you're going to be relevant, so the largest buyer of gold and silver is the government
Hmm.
and any other institution that wants to be relevant in electronic space. The market where you and I are talking about is 1% of the
Okay.
market. If you talk about everybody who wants to buy gold and silver, it is almost zero.
Okay.
And so if you are in the know and understand what I'm talking about, it is a huge benefit and safety. And it is like food storage. Once you have it, you're like, oh, I didn't realize I needed that.
Yeah.
And so gold and silver is exactly the same, but it's been hidden from our history. In fact, it was illegal to own gold if you're an American by executive order by FDR. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt banned Americans from owning gold, and they also confiscated gold by a penalty of $10,000, which would be close to $1 million actually now.
Wow.
And so all that gold was confiscated from Americans in I think 1934. And then we've never had it audited, and they still value the gold there at $42 an ounce officially, whatever's there, when it's 4,300 to $4,500 over. So people at Costco, to answer your question, we're seeing when Costco had to buy gold, they had to lock it in at a certain rate. So
Mm.
they said, okay, we're going to buy it for this rate. Well, the market's going like this,
Way up.
and so people would buy it, and they saw a trend of people getting it, and they know that the government is just printing more and more money every year. So it's just a matter of waiting a few months or even a couple of weeks. And the margins might be small, but if it swings even $3 or $4 and you bought a significant amount, you just come over to a coin store like me and we lock it in with another dealer and then you win the profit. So,
Yep.
through arbitrage, you could do this all day. You could do it with jewelry. Yeah, if you want to make some money, just give me a bunch of jewelry because there's a market rate for that, and I can refine it, turn it
Mhm.
back into something, and it's instantly. Here's the main point. I think people may not know. It is instantly cash outable. It is not
Mm.
something you have to wait for. If you brought me $1 million of gold, which is only this much, by the way, um, I would have it. I would have a check to you within 48 hours. I mean, I would have it you wired to your bank and maybe even in less time. It doesn't really matter if it was $10 million. This is a worldwide market. It is the same price everywhere you go. And if you can even make 1% on transactions, you're doing awesome. So
Wow. Okay. So I guess there's a lot here for the hustler mentality, which is why I've always stayed away from gold, is I didn't really see a lot of business opportunity in it. But oh goodness, we have so many questions. All right. So how do you avoid the rampant scams that exist in any industry where there's a lot of money. I've seen so many real estate scams, Bitcoin scams, and then you also have a lot of distrust in the precious metals markets because we see so many people out there just taking advantage of people. So what are some of the major scams that people should watch out for? And what are some of the major legitimate, like the green flag people should watch out for to know if they're going to be doing something that that they're not basically just going to lose their money or send it to somebody off on some fake country somewhere.
Sure, sure. So, when I first got in this business, I was struggling to even find silver because it was during COVID,
Okay.
and the refineries were shut down because people went home or told to go home, and it was really, really difficult. And so, but when I finally got a hold of it, it was $17 an ounce. Okay, right now it's $70 an ounce. Okay, in 5 years, I'll do the math on that. So, so I had a friend call me and he's like, Abe, I can get this online for $14, $12. They're only charging me $10 an ounce. I'm like, well, buy everything you possibly can because I would buy that all day. But I was trying to tell him, it's like, okay, that's not possible to get a deal on silver. So that's the first thing you know is a scam. If you're getting a deal on silver or gold, you're being scammed. There
Okay.
is no such thing as a deal on gold and silver. That's just no such thing.
Okay. So not
Unless
not
you're talking
taking a
to
discount. We're talking
somebody
about
who has no idea what they have, and that's your grandma or somebody's
okay.
had it for a while, or some neighbor who kind of pays attention and just wants an exit and get a couple of bucks like that. But never online. You would never have that happen unless
But
somebody
what
forgot to update their prices.
if you're talking about like but let's go back to the gold flipping a little bit. Somebody's like, I can buy this gold coin at Costco and then go and trade it to somebody who's going to pay me a few dollars more per. What is the price differential that you're going to see where you're like, hey, this is a good opportunity to flip it versus this is a scam?
Yeah, depends on the day, right? So
Right.
right now, if you look at the spot price, usually I tell people to go to Kitco. That's kind of a standard in the industry.
Mhm.
You can just watch it, and if it's fluctuating more than $1 a day, it's incredibly crazy
Okay.
for silver. And gold, it doesn't really fluctuate too. It depends on the economy, right? It's gonna
Mhm.
fluctuate maybe $100 and down. It's really low though. So if you're, so I'm talking about maybe 2 to 10% max kind of range.
Okay.
Um, maybe you get a good deal there. Go on gold, 1% maybe. And so they're only making 1 or 2% unless there's some kind of, any there's a war announced or something. It makes people want to go. Or if the stock market's crashing, they always move to gold and silver, and that'll push the
Right.
price up. But you're not going to see 25% off.
Okay.
You're never going to see that. Never. And so if you see things that are significantly lower, this is a scam. Now, also, if you want to, so Chinese does a lot of fakes, and there's people that buy coins in Hong Kong. If you're buying things off the street in Hong Kong or some other place, like, oh, I've got a deal. I just had these, and they tell you a story. They found them somewhere in a box. You get really excited, and they look pretty cool, but they're totally fake.
Okay.
And but what you can do is you say, well, let me take it to my local coin guy, and then they can tell me. Now, if a guy's been in business for 20 years or even 2 years, you cannot be in this business if you're not honest. Can't. This is
Mhm.
all word of mouth
Mhm.
stuff. And if you're a dishonest person, you cannot be in business. Pawn shops um, don't really do gold and silver as their main business. So I don't recommend anything to do with the pawn shop, but a coin store, uh, yes, they they do know, and they'll educate you.
Okay.
You can ask any question you want, and, and ask them, and any good coin store will educate you on how it works. And you might say, well, that doesn't sound right. That's weird. Well, that's because you're not familiar with the business. Once you understand that, you can get better and better rates. And the more you know, the more you can
Okay.
not get ripped off. Now, I'll show you one quick test you can do.
Yes.
If you think you have silver, this is a really quick and simple one. This isn't assure you. This is a magnet, so it's going to stick to things that are magnets. Okay. Gold and silver are not magnetic. They're non-ferrous metals like copper. They do not stick. They do not stick. In fact, so these are some silver coins that we make here, and they will not stick to a magnet where other things do. So first thing you can do is a magnet test to see if it does it. If it sticks to it, it's not magnetic. Now, gold is actually repels. It's a magnet repeller. It's called diamagnetic or something,
Huh.
that it will actually push away from a magnet
Okay.
slightly. So if you can put it on a piece of styrofoam and like let it float in water and you put a magnet to it, it actually pushes it away. It like goes away from it. It's really weird.
Very cool. I need a
So
gold coin so I can do this homeschool science experiment.
no, no, it's really, you should come by the mint and there's
Here.
all kinds of fun things. And there's acid tests you can do. There's a kit on Amazon you can get for $13 and you can actually test the purity. Like if you want to know what kind of jewelry you have,
Mhm.
the other things you can be scammed on is jewelry,
Okay.
because people played it gold. So it tests on the surface gold, but if you scratch it a little bit, it'll be copper underneath.
Okay.
And so there's all kinds of things like that. But once you get pure gold and silver and figure that out, it is easy. It's an easy
Okay.
thing.
Interesting, because I have a friend of mine for I've known him for many, many years, and he owns a pawn shop.
Mhm.
And years ago, I asked him, I said, "How's business going? What are you up to?" And he said, "Oh, I'll buy gold for bring gold in. I need gold, 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 gold." And I said, "Wait, what? I thought you were a pawn shop owner." Which I know pawn shops deal with some jewelry and things like that. He goes,
Uh-huh.
"No, I'm a gold dealer. The
Yeah,
pawn shop is the storefront, but what we're doing there is the gold." And so I actually did learn a lot from him about kind of flipping it, but it just seemed like at that point he was almost like not enterprise, but almost enterprise level type of stuff. And it just didn't really seem
sure.
like what I wanted to do. So I guess looking back on it now, maybe I should have taken him up on his advice. They're going to help me out navigate that a little bit better. He was saying, and most advisors I hear say that gold or precious metals in general, gold, silver should be roughly 5 to maybe 10% of a total portfolio. And yours may not be that. I know I'm overloaded on real estate because that's my area of specialty. But
Sure.
the general public, the general investor, especially a passive investor, just wants to hold gold. Does that seem like a reasonable amount of diversification to you, or is it too low?
I think it's too low. I think it
Okay.
should be around 25 to 30% at this point. And you just balance it every year. Like those that have had that for the last 5 years would have needed to rebalance now. They would need to sell off some of their
Mhm.
gold because it's doubled and tripled in value
Yeah, getting too
to
much.
maintain that. But here's the cool thing, because see, this is a special kind of real estate, and unlike a house. Oh, and by the way, in Utah and many states now, gold and silver is recognized as money. So there's no property tax and no sales tax when you buy gold and silver. And
Mm,
so not only do you get to keep, because because money, you can't tax money because it doesn't act as money. Then you might as well have crypto. But gold and silver is legally recognized as money because remember I told you it's part of our constitution. So it is money. It is money. So when you hold on to it, there's no property tax you have to pay every year. It's exempt from that. But if you need to cash out on some, you don't, unlike a house, you can't sell a bathroom, you know, to get some of the equity out. You don't have to borrow against it, but you can, chop off a little piece of gold and sell it. And
mhm.
we sit there just like pieces of it. We'll test it. We'll make sure it's gold, and we'll pay you the market value for it.
Okay.
So
Hmm.
it
Now,
should.
what other tax benefits do you see for people holding it? Because a lot of my investors come to me and they're like, "Hey, I'm getting killed on taxes. I'm a high
Oh man,
W-2," especially both of them are W-2. I'm like, "I heard real estate. If I invest in you with you, I won't have to pay as much of taxes." I'm like, "That's
let me
sorry."
let me tell you
Oh,
the best thing I've ever come across. So most mints do not know how to make dies and like the designs. Like here's a golden spike coin. I don't know if you can see this. It's gonna turn
there you
silver, so
go.
you won't
There
be
you
able
go.
to see with this
Golden
back.
spike.
Anyways, because of my art background with Disney, I know the secrets of die making and
Mm,
image making. In the end, silver and gold is also an art market, right? And so, just like real estate, whatever improvements and story you can tell about that real estate, you get more premium for it. That's just
okay.
how it works, right? If it has this interesting story or provenance,
Like a
it
historical
becomes,
building.
what's that?
Like a historical building.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Or you do a limited edition,
Mm-mm.
or a specialty coin that you can only get if you do this challenge. So like for example, every single military organization and police force, fire department usually has a challenge coin for some reason. And
Okay.
they're usually not gold and silver. They should be because they'd be cooler to get. They're usually brass or something they get from China or something.
Well,
But
they leave these coins a lot. We just got back from Alaska, and the coins in
uh
the Red Dog Saloon, they leave their challenge coins there, and all the memorabilia all over the wall. So they probably wouldn't be doing that if it was gold or silver.
no, they wouldn't. No, yeah. You have never found a piece of gold when you're walking out of the street, nor have you ever found an actual piece of real silver. It's because it's so valuable. It just
Okay.
nobody leaves it anywhere. And if you did, you're just super lucky. Um, uh, so we were talking about what was the question?
It's
I
like
kind of lost.
the tax
Oh,
benefits of
tax benefits. Okay,
gold.
so I had an investment firm buying a bunch of silver for his clients through me and leveraging that buy power to get, almost a dealer's rate. Actually, he has a dealer's rate now. And he's like, Abe, can you take all my silver back? Can you buy it back? I'm like, sure. Why? He says, because I want to put my logo on it. And I'm like, okay, we can probably do that. He says, and hold on, let me talk to my tax guy. So he talks us to his tax guy. He says, okay, yeah, we definitely want to do this. And by the way, we get to write that off as an advertising expense. And I'm like, that's that's the
That's
coolest idea I've ever heard. Because unlike a truck or something you want to write off, there's
mhm.
no tax, number one. And then there's also, it's an advertiser's bet. How you want to use this as an advertising piece is totally up to you. You have a pile of wealth and say, hey, we're a wealth management fund. See, we protect it. And if you buy a house from me, I'll give you one of these coins. It's a business card coin. It
Mm,
starts 100% write-off. So whatever is reasonable for your business to have in advertising, get your logo on silver because everybody who did this doubled their money last year just because of the market's going crazy for silver. But not only that, they got the entire write-off for it as a business advertising expense. And the tax people tell us there's no capital gains on this if you ever were to cash this out because you're junking the coin. It's like throwing your business cards away because you don't want them. Except there's no intrinsic value for business cards unless they're made out of silver. So, so you're selling the junk to any refining. So you're getting close to a spot. It's a little back a spot right now when you refine it because of the market, but it's raised so much. So on average, just for doing this, people save on average 35% on their taxes. And then sometimes as high as 40, depending on what income bracket you're doing.
mhm.
And then they get this asset they sit on all year long. And then if they need to recapitalize their business, they can just sell these for the junk. I shouldn't call them junk for the scrap value. And that's just a capital contribution. There's no tax consequence according to
Great.
our tax guide because it's just another capital contribution. You already own the asset or the value of it in the silver. So you're not gaining anything. You already have the wealth. You're just transferring it into a form that you can now apply towards your business once you throw these things away. And that's to any refinery, any business. And so really it's all about education and asking questions on how to do it and seeing that it's real. So we have dozens and dozens of businesses that are starting to figure this out. Dentists, HVAC people that need that write-off and the fungibility, not the fungibility, the convertibility if they need it. So it becomes a really good bank account that you are the banker. Your job is to keep this safe and under your control.
Okay.
And trust me, this stuff is the most manipulated thing next to the debt market in the in the world. I would think this is traded 400 to 1 paper versus reality. So if you can get the real stuff, I always recommend, please take it home with you. Make a treasure map, stick it onto your walls and keep it safe where you can have your eyes under it. Don't trust this stuff. And because there's very few things that the value is in the thing itself. It's one of the very few things that have that. So
Hmm. Interesting.
hope that makes sense.
Well, I think, Gabe, how do people get a hold of you? Because I think we've talked about this minting as a tax strategy before, and I still honestly like do not
Yes.
fully understand it, and I don't know how I could apply it to my business. So I think it's one of those things where the listener is going to have to reach out to you if this is something that's intriguing to you as a listener, and you want to get in touch with Abe and talk to him about how you can own some gold, how you can use this as a tax savings plan in your own business or your own lifestyle. Like, I don't know. I'm not the one to ask, but I can hook you up
Yes.
with Abe. I think that's what I like to do on the show. Is like I selfishly get to have people on where I get.
Yeah. I love telling people the thing, give them the information, and then having it give it to their tax guy, and then that
Yes.
their tax guy will tell them that this is totally
It's
legit, as
legit.
long as it's a permanent logo of your thing on your, it's basically your own money. It's your own
Yeah.
coin that
And not
you
a lot
get.
of mints can do that for them,
No,
or
no.
if they
In fact, the
or
only
with
limits were here.
you.
It would take them over a year to do it. So we have done this. So we get it within a 2 week period. We get the thing made. Because of my background in my world of high tech, fast paced stuff, I came into
Mhm.
a world that was like maybe 50 years behind.
Oh,
And so
okay.
I brought in all the modern techniques. People are still hand sculpting these things on these plates and having to rotoscope them in with this thing from, 50 years ago.
That's what a CNC machine is for.
Yeah, no, yes, yeah. Because before seeing, if it's, they're called rotoscopes. See, they actually they take the small thing and a big thing and they copy it down, or it's like a little record player where
Yeah.
it's kind of, it's really interesting. And so bringing this in, we're just, and my goal was to do this because I knew the history of what was happening to preserve our wealth from 2000 and I think 2017 to I think 2023. You lost about 50% of your money if it was sitting in a bank. That's the
Mhm.
purchasing power that has lost through inflation. And so my goal was just preserve your wealth. But then all these other things, I had no idea. Literally just pretend I'm you 5 years ago. I didn't know all these things. But then all of a sudden, like, wow, not only do we have this knowledge, but then we have the confidence. Like anybody could take this as payment at a store. It's not
Mhm.
barter, it's money. And so if they paid it and just like we charge the same 3% you would with a credit card, you could literally just work with a group like this and just turn in your money for cash the same day, just like you would a bank. Here's the deposit. Okay, here's your check. You're good. I mean, and that has always been what was surprising. It's always been that way. It's just you don't know about it. That's the
Yeah.
only thing. And unless somebody tells you, this is not something they tell you in the schools because our system is based on a Federal Reserve note now. So
Yeah. Oh, goodness. I even half the questions I wanted to ask, I didn't even get to, but, um, how do people get a hold of you, Abe?
so people can get a hold of me. I suppose you can go to if you want to look at our coin store. We have a place. It's called Oz Coin and Bullion. That is our front to if you want to sell precious metals or buy them, just come over and check out the place. And if you want to get a tour of the mint, tell them I'd like to get a tour at the mint. It's kind of in the back. We don't really advertise that too much. We'll show you the whole process. We'll walk you through what we're doing and how this is real. We'll show you all the different designs and stuff that people do. And then, but if you want to call me directly through Emma Powell's broadcast, you're welcome to just call me directly. So I'm happy to pick up the phone for you. I'm not so busy. I
Perfect.
can't.
Yeah. Jump on with me if you want to get a hold of Abe. Like I said, I'm always like, I'm free to introduce you to any guests that we've had on the show. We talk on the phone. So if you need to get in touch with them, go to the Oscona Bullion website. I know my oldest daughter is 27 years old. She's a mechanical engineer, and I know she was homeschooled, but they're just going to eat this kind of stuff up. It's
Oh, she'd
fascinating
love coming
many,
over here.
many different levels, from an investment level, from a technical level, from industry and science. There's so much here. So I think,
Yeah, Ozbullion.com is one of our websites. Ozbullion.com. OZ.
perfect. OZ, like the Wizard of
Like
Oz, which you
like
have
ants. Yeah,
behind you
yeah.
on
I'll
your
have to tell you the Wizard of Oz. You'll have to have me come back. The
yes.
Wizard of Oz is so cool. It's Wizard of Ounces. It's an amazing story. He wrote that because of the gold and silver theft that happened at that time.
Yeah, and now you got Wicked and all of that circling around. Did I spell this right on the banner here? Ozbullion.com?
Let's see here. The banner.
Right there?
All right, that is correct.
All right,
Great job.
perfect. All right, so go to OZ, just like the Wizard of Oz, bullion.com, and get a hold of me easily at investwithemma.com. You can get on my calendar and ask me any questions you have about investing. I can hook you up with the right people, or if you'd like to invest with us, I can lead you into our investor portal and get you set up that way. So lots and lots of opportunities here. This whole show is about how to take more adventures, whether it's giving back, donating more, going on more trips, spending more time with your loved ones, whatever kind of lifestyle you want. People are always asking me when they see that how'd you spend 6 months in Alaska? How did you hike the Arizona Trail? Like all of these things that we did. It's like, how did you pay for it? That's the number one question that we got. And so I have just made it a habit when we're out hiking and people are on these long trails in Arizona. I just ask people all the time, how are you hiking for 2 or 3 months? Like, what do you do for a living? How do you make money? Because I feel like people's lifestyles would be very different if they could really chase after what they need without having to worry about money. And I'm not advocating for the end of capitalism or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, figure out how to pay for your adventures, and your life is going to look very different than it does when you don't know how to pay for the things you really want to do. So that's what this show is all about. And people like Abe coming on and sharing your knowledge and wisdom and freely and hoping to do business together. All of these things are how we get this stuff done. So thanks so much for coming on today, Abe, and sharing with the audience.
It's great to be with you.
All right. We'll see you next week for another passive income adventure.